Dying to be Stuckmocky, Chapter 19. The trio get some exercise. Vira felt a twinge of shame as Fahyrjeon took her arm and examined it closely by the bright moonlight. Her muscles and tendons felt as though they were straining to hold a sword, so she forced her fingers into an open position and tried to make them relax. "There doesn't seem to be any further need for my skills here," observed Fahyrjeon with a puzzled tone. "All signs of physical trauma have disappeared." Vira could feel a cool, soothing, gentle touch in the memory of her wrist, and as she noticed the sensation, her fingers relaxed without her urging. She pulled the memory inside herself and took her arm back from Fahyrjeon. "You must have better eyesight than me then. This moonlight just shows me it's time to be on our way." "I am glad to hear you sounding so much improved, Vira," Mirrin said with a tone of some surprise. The three stood up with difficulty, their stiff limbs protesting at long hours of immobility. Mirrin disappeared into the shadows, then soon returned with the basket of pilfered food and his leather boots. Once Mirrin had restored his boots to his feet, they each took some food and began munching as they walked up over the bank towards the road. They saw no traffic at all on the bridge as they approached, so their plan to wait until nightfall was appearing to be a good one. "Why did you say earlier your nose needed some treatment, Fahyrjeon?" asked Vira as they began to cross the river. "You don't remember?" "Should I?" Vira suddenly had a flash feeling of fist meeting snout. "Oh, Fahyrjeon, it was me, wasn't it? I'm so sorry." Vira immediately stopped halfway across the bridge. She jumped up to catch her friend's neck in her arms and pulled its head down lower. When the slightly swollen snout came within reach of her lips, she planted a soft, restorative kiss upon it. Fahyrjeon looked surprised, but pleased. "Is that how you treat injuries in your land, Vira?" Vira smiled with amusement. "Yes, I suppose it is the most effective treatment we have. We haven't discovered the wonders of spit yet." "Perhaps I should come to your land and educate your shamans," mused Fahyrjeon, checking the state of its nose with delicate proddings. "I have much expertise. I'm sure they would welcome my knowledge." Vira's mental image of a Stuckmocky in a lab coat lecturing a roomful of attentive physicians was shattered when Mirrin suddenly yelled, "Run!" At the same moment she heard the rattle and clatter of an approaching wagon and turned to run at full tilt back the way they had just come. When she reached the end of the bridge, she scurried down off it and ducked out of sight. She hoped Fahyrjeon had made it to safety in time, as it was really only the sight of the Stuckmocky that was a problem. She was sure she could talk her own way out of a nighttime encounter without too much trouble. When the wagon had noisily clattered and clopped past and receded into the shadows, Vira emerged from her hiding place and looked around in the moonlight for her friends. A large furry head popped up from behind a nearby bush and whispered loudly, "It seems they failed to notice me." "It is a failure I wish I could accomplish. Get off my hand," groaned Mirrin, also behind the bush. It was a minute or so before Mirrin could nurse some life back into his affronted hand, while refusing an offer of Stuckmocky first aid, and the three travellers could resume their interrupted crossing of the river. They were nearly halfway across again, when a voice called out of the darkness behind them, "Excuse me, could you help me, please?" Fahyrjeon immediately sprinted at a remarkable speed across the rest of the bridge and disappeared from sight. Mirrin and Vira froze where they were. "I think you had best deal with this," whispered Mirrin. "I do not believe my womanly vocal skills are practiced enough for a conversation yet. I will keep watch for any trouble." While Mirrin stood against the parapet of the bridge in as feminine a manner as he could adopt, Vira walked cautiously back to the man she could see leaning on a walking staff at the start of the bridge. "How can I help you?" she asked. "I wondered if you could tell me if this is the town of Tootling I've just passed through. I'm not from these parts and I think I may have gotten lost." Vira panicked for a moment as she realised she knew absolutely no useful geography to tell the man, when reason said she probably should if she was walking about at night. Then she automatically fell into thinking on her feet. "Oh yes, Tootling Town it is indeed, the best market town in the region. Well known for plates and little muffin cakes. Very nice they are too." She stumbled to a halt. "Plates and little muffin cakes?" "Thank you, young lady, you've been very helpful. Good evening." The man stumped onto the bridge and began walking towards Mirrin, who nodded courteously at him as he passed, and even managed a raspy, "Good evening." As Mirrin and Vira walked towards each other, Vira suddenly realised something. "He called me young lady," she whispered at Mirrin. "How did he know when no one else in the whole of Glorfindel seems to be able to tell?" The voice of the man called from the bridge ahead of them. "I'm blind. I hear people, not see them. Thank you again, young lady, and good night to you and your father." Mirrin shrugged resignedly, then whispered, "You have sent a blind man on a fool's mission, young lady. I may not remember the name of this town, but it is not Tootling." "Oh no, and he seems so nice," groaned Vira. "Right now we had best focus on finding our surprisingly fleet-footed friend," said Mirrin, as he turned to resume the bridge crossing. He and Vira had barely taken a step when a loud voice called commandingly behind them, "Stop! Go no further, by order of the overhead of the town of Trinknopf." "Trinknopf, that's it," said Mirrin, as he and Vira turned to face the two burly men who had approached unseen during the whispered conversation. "There have been many reports of the sounds of Rizenwikk on the prowl this evening," said one of the men, who held a loaded crossbow, "and the overhead has decided in his wisdom to close this bridge until further notice. It is not safe to cross the river tonight." "Better tell that to the hordes of other people who've been crossing tonight then," muttered Vira. "What did you say, young man?" the crossbow wielder asked suspiciously. Vira grinned at Mirrin. "Nothing, sir." Then her face fell. She'd just remembered Fahyrjeon hiding on the far side of the bridge.